I'm so happy to be sitting and hanging out with you. You can put me in your headphones as you go for your daily walk, or however you want to hang out is absolutely perfect. The reason that I am going live and talking about all of these topics today is because it is a really, really special week. We have Thanksgiving this week, and as someone who shares ancient indigenous practices, I feel like what better time to talk about ancient indigenous practices than during this week and this time. So I'm challenging myself to go live a few times over the next 10 days or so. And this is a challenge for me. Maybe you've been noticing that I've been feeling or seeming a little bit more awkward on camera than when you first started following me or first started joining my lives or something like that. And that's something that happened because I started social media when I was like in 8th grade. And so since then, it's been a big evolution, right? And over the past year, I've spent the majority of the year in vision quests, in shamanic healing, and in ceremonies. So what that means is that you spend about 200 days in silence, in your own conscious exploration. And this has been so valuable. I would not change it for the world, but it does make you a little bit more awkward, a little bit more antisocial. Right after my 200 days of silence, of like ancient practices that were, I had to check in with my healers, my indigenous elders, to prove to them that I was like doing all of these practices all of the time. It was so amazing. But after I finished that whole entire practice, I definitely was super awkward. I went into the city to do a speech, and I had never heard my voice shake more in my entire life. It's so funny how when you are out of practice from being on camera or speaking or coaching, it's like a muscle. You have to practice doing the things that really make you you, otherwise you lose them. So since then, I've been practicing speaking a little bit more. I still do my days of silence, my vision quests, and my indigenous ceremonies at least every single week for like 3 or 4 days a week. So I do spend a lot of time in monk mode or in my own spiritual practices. But when I'm not in my spiritual practices, I'm really passionate about sharing spiritual practices with you that can deeply support you. So the thing that intrigued me into becoming a facilitator of ancient indigenous medicines and rituals and ceremonies is the fact that for my whole entire life, I was told that human beings were 6,000 years old. So the first human beings that ever existed on our planet existed 6,000 years ago. And of course, there's so much debate about the origin of humans. I grew up in a religious school, so I got to learn the scientific Darwinism, evolutionary origin, as well as all of these different religious and spiritual origins of humans. And based on archaeological research that's come out in just the past few years, we now know that humans have actually been on this planet. Our type of human, our level of intelligence, has been existing on this planet for 30,000 years, which is absolutely insane. Like, people used to think the oldest artifacts that we could ever find were 6,000 years ago. And now we know for a fact that humans have been evolving in this universe and on this realm for 30,000 years. So learning that information is what drove me to explore consciousness, explore channeling, explore psychic energy. How do I tap into this knowledge? I heard that it was possible. From all of these other professionals, I'm friends with some like really incredible archaeologists who are finding this 30,000-year-old information, and they're telling me that when you meditate with these objects, you can actually tap into the ritual practices that we used to practice 30,000 years ago. So why is all of this so interesting? Why is all of this so important? 30,000 years ago, there were way less humans on Earth, and every single human on Earth was much more deeply connected to the universe, to nature, and could easily get where they wanted to go at the healthiest version of themselves. They could really live up to their highest potential. And we know that because 30,000 years later, we still have their artifacts. We're still trying to find their knowledge and their ceremonies. So for people who have dedicated their lives to this research, we have also, some of us at least, that are really interested in conscious exploration will go and meditate at all of these different archaeological sites, or will really try as hard as we possibly can to tap in to that lost information that if you try to read about this, or if you try to understand it through word of mouth, like we're playing a big game of telephone from our ancestors 30,000 years ago to now. And something in ancestral healing and being a proponent of ancestral rituals and ceremonies that are proven in science today, is being really aware of ancestral worship, which is something that often is talked about in my industry and in my community. Why do we think that people who came before us somehow knew better about earth or health or things like that? This is not always the case. There's definitely groups of people all over the world since the beginning of human evolution that are more and less connected to nature, that are more and less connected to the laws of the universe. And so I think that by studying ancestral patterns and rituals and things like that, we can more deeply connect to ourselves by connecting with these hyper-aligned groups. But not every single ancestor that we experience, or not every single history that we as humans have, is necessarily supporting us. So the reason that ancestral healing is so valuable is because of something called epigenetics, which is basically when a woman is pregnant, her DNA is imprinted onto the child in a much deeper way than we're able to study right now with science. So her emotions, her stress levels, her nervous system blueprint, as well as her soul blueprint, is imprinted onto that child. So when a child is born in times of war, in times of famine, in times of music, right? All of these things are actually encoded in the DNA of these children. And so as we evolve from generation to generation, we actually take with us our rituals, our ceremonies, as well as our traumas. So whether you are aware of a war that you have lived through, or maybe throughout your own history, there was a time that like someone in your life was pregnant during a stressful period. The reason that epigenetics works this way is because humans are constantly evolving. It's what we all came here to do. So by being pregnant and able to imprint your specific energy onto that baby, you're actually setting up that baby to better evolve in this environment. So let's say that the human body thinks that we're in this incredibly violent, war-stricken environment. It's going to imprint a lot of anxiety, overwhelm, stress, and survival instincts onto that baby, so that when the baby grows up in this war and violent environment, it has all of the survival skills that it needs in order to survive in that environment and continue passing that DNA on. So a lot of the things that we experience on a day-to-day basis as adults, thoughts that you have, things like that, are not even yours. They can be from this 30,000 year history of human evolution on this planet. And think of all of the things that have happened or haven't happened, or conspiracies, or whatever it could be, throughout the whole entire evolution of this planet, right? In our Western world, something that is often discussed is like, what is your ancestral lineage? What is your specific ethnicity? Things like that. But when we really can identify this and tap into our true history, go 30,000 years back, we can go into a bigger and bigger and bigger perspective. We are 30,000 years ago, there were not races, there were not ethnicities, there were just a few groups of people. So the emotions that you have, the memories, the collective consciousness that we experience is actually a lot more potent than you might think, even though the population of this earth is so much bigger now. So a lot of the things that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis, I work with people internationally, I work with people in the UK, in Australia, everywhere, and we're all experiencing these really, really similar things. And that's due to our human evolution. That's due to all of this residual trauma, residual anxiety that we've developed over time. So why is this important right now? I am someone who has always felt a lot of anxiety around Thanksgiving, and this can be due to ancestral lineage or past life connections, my own past life throughout this 30,000 year history on this planet, as well as my ancestors and how they've contributed to my emotions and my thoughts and things like that. So the way that Thanksgiving is taught to us in the West is that it's this very, very like wholesome holiday of family and things like that. I remember there being one time in my entire life that I said to a friend, like, I don't think I'm celebrating Thanksgiving this year. And they told me that I was a horrible daughter, that I'm a horrible family member, that my parents must hate me. So Thanksgiving is really, really deeply conditioned into our society. And a lot of us might feel anxiety about how to connect with our family members on this holiday. A lot of us, it's very common to have jokes about how uncomfortable this holiday is. And the truth is, if we were to go back in our own history, go back through that 30,000-year-old evolution, we'd probably be able to identify a lot of causes of this anxiety. The things that resulted in the events that resulted in what we now call Thanksgiving are events that, like, I'm literally getting sick even saying it, and I'm not even saying it because it is beyond what you could even imagine. Like, imagine the most horrific horror movie that you could possibly imagine. That is what's worse than that is what led to Thanksgiving. So that is what we're celebrating. That is what we're avoiding. That is what we are pretending that we're not having anxiety about and things of that nature. And if you are feeling just like a little bit of an undercurrent of discomfort, whether it could be because of family, because of food, when I was vegan on Thanksgiving, it was always so stressful. It really could be because we have been on either side of these horrific events and wars throughout our life. And now, because we're not facing, like right now, I'm not facing war in order to experience Thanksgiving, but my residual energy bodies are, that anxiety still lives within me, that fear, those survival instincts, that distrust of my family members because who could betray you or things like that. So if you are experiencing a lot of emotions, or maybe you're not experiencing emotions and you're just noticing that you have a little bit more anxiety during this time of year, these are the things that can open a doorway for us into deeper understanding of ourselves, understanding of our past lives, our ancestral lineage. And so the more that we do these practices to align to our truth, our collective consciousness, our goodness, all of those things, the more we're clearing out our own karma. A lot of the time people are saying that they're not ready for manifestation because they have too much trauma and too much anxiety. But the truth is that every single ritual you do supports you in clearing out that karma. And a lot of the time people don't enjoy meditation in the morning because it's not really clearing out that much karma. But doing a movement meditation practice that I teach within my membership, for example, that will result in like a deep evolution, a deep clearing out of ancestral trauma in just one practice. So this is why I strongly recommend doing practices like this as often as you possibly can. I started out by doing one practice a month for just 1 hour. That's it. Then I started doing once a week. Then I started doing every single day. Now I do 5 practices a day in order to clear out my energetic debris, because our ancestors are always trying to communicate with us. They're always trying to give us information about ourselves. And the way that this happens is through emotions. When we're triggered, when we're turned on, our emotions are energy in motion. And if every time you experience an emotion, you give yourself the space to really sit down and observe that emotion and follow the thread all the way back 30,000 years into your history, you will learn so much about yourself, so much about the world, and everything can really be completely different for you. So yes, humans are always evolving, but if you're evolving on autopilot, it's going to be like riding a bus to an unknown destination. I'm sure that you've seen movies like that where you like fall asleep on the Greyhound bus and 6 hours later you're just like, whoa, where am I? Like, I had no idea where I was. This is why manifestation is so important, and this is why our ancestors used ceremonies, rituals, and natural practices to know where they're going, because nobody should ever be living their life on that level of autopilot where you just are on a bus and you don't know where you're going or where you're headed or how you got there or how long you're going to be there, right? Our ancestors had incredible navigation methods. They could literally cross the Atlantic in canoes. So they did these things by using rituals, by using manifestation methods, by clearing out their karma, by getting really, really connected to their soul vision and their soul purpose, and connecting with other people who have those similar values and those similar soul vision and soul purpose. This is how we have evolved humankind since the beginning of history, and this is how you can evolve in your own life on a personal scale. It is so cool, and all of this is rooted in science. It's just mind-blowing that more people don't rely on oracles, Reiki masters, and ancestral healing ceremonies and things like that when things get tough, because I used to really suffer, honestly, as well as many of my clients. We used to suffer with these things and learn how to accept our anxiety rather than learning the tools that can help you instantly get rid of it. So it's really, really beautiful, and it all comes down to believing that there has to be more to life, there has to be more to your history, there has to be more freedom in your evolution. And so I want you to know that you definitely have a say in your evolution. You definitely have a say in how easy and good life can feel for you. And it really can come down to your ability to tap into your true inner wisdom and your ancestral wisdom. So, I'm really excited to be sharing all of these practices with you, and even more ancestral rituals and ancestral practices that I use every single day, and offering inspiration and motivation of some alternative ways that you can overcome your anxiety. I'm not talking about like not feeling it for a little bit. I'm talking about actually curing yourself of the things that have been holding you back. And it's really exciting, and it all comes down to an identity shift or a belief or a commitment. It could be that you feel so uncomfortable that you're like, I'm tired of feeling tired. Or maybe you're like, I want to tap into my ancestral lineage. I want to tap into that inner warrior energy. Whatever it is, I'm so happy that we're here chatting about this today. And if you are feeling called to dive into this even deeper, I am hosting a 30-day manifestation mastery program for all of our Soul School VIP members. So I do have a membership where I share quantum healing services and ancient practices. I have a library there that you have lifetime access to of divine feminine trainings and so many other things that can really deeply support you. I even have practices that you can do in your sleep, as well as practices that can instantly change your neuroplasticity in just 3 minutes. So if this is resonating with you, send me a message, comment below. I will have a description box in the replay where you can just sign up directly so that you can access our 30-day manifestation mastery, because doors are closing on December 1st. That's where we'll be starting off our live stream quantum healing calls where we talk about ancient topics just like this, and you get to practice in real time with a professional healer on some proven practices that can instantly upgrade you. So I'm super excited. VIP members get access to these sorts of challenges. You can also join the challenge as a separate one-off. I have a link there in my bio. So I cannot wait for all of us to hop inside, and I promise I'm gonna get better at talking again. I feel like it's been years since I've sat and talked, just because I've been having incredible conversations in the astrals with our ancestors and things of that nature, which is completely different. So thank you so much for being a part of my evolution and my up level through all of these years, as I have perfected my expertise and gained more experience and just had fun doing this amazing thing that we call life. So I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time, and I will see you next time.